welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I'm super excited. This week we have a guest with us who we will talk to, Amy Oehler from Cornerstone Mortgage, and she works out of Austin, Texas. And before we get to Amy, I want to introduce my co-host, Michael Regan. Thanks so much for being here, Michael.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Really excited to get to interview Amy today and really thankful that we're going to find out we've got some brand alignment. So let's dig into it. This is going to be fun.
Yes, I'm definitely excited. And Amy, just to kind of get us started, tell us a little bit about your mortgage journey, what that's looked like since you started in the business when you were a very young person, we'll call it.
I think it was completely by accident, which the more I talk to loan originators, we all seem to have some of the same themes. Not all of us, but many of us by accident, right? And so my mother and aunts, they all had the mortgage background, more of a servicing background. So in the summers, while I was in high school, I found myself working in the file room. So it was back in the day where everything was paper. We had to go to the file room and pick out the files. And so I started there and then started posting mortgage payments and then kind of got bored. And then I microfished all the files. That got boring. Worked in insurance, worked in taxes, did some escrow analysis, got bored, then started doing collections and foreclosure, got bored, went to origination side, started closing, the shipping first, shipping, closing, processing, each time just finding myself bored and feeling unfulfilled because I didn't get to connect with the client. And so finally, when I found origination, it was like, oh, I can't get bored because these are such different puzzles that we're interacting with on a daily basis. So I have been in the mortgage business for over 33 years, but originating for the last 20.
All right, so it seems like when you finally found your way, out of the mail room or the file room or the shipping room, I'm picturing that scene in Elf. Wasn't that funny when they went down in the mailroom? So when you found your way into the front of the house and you started interacting, at some point in this journey, you joined up with a pretty high volume group of producers. Tell us a little bit about how you found your way onto a high production team and what that looked like for you for a few years, just so we have some context.
Yeah, so I had been a broker for a while and found myself kind of in a difficult patch because regulation was coming down and I was starting to be audited all the time, and it just was a little overwhelming. It became, I'm entrepreneurial, but it became too outside of what I love to do, which is talking to buyers and helping them buy homes and qualify. And so it was the 06, 07, 08, and everything started to just get a little difficult. And I found myself referring loans to my friends at Prime Lending, Candy Bouzon specifically at Prime Lending. So there was loans that I couldn't do and I was struggling with. And so finally they were like, why don't you come over here with us? And so I started working over there, and one of my teammates was going to go on his honeymoon to Greece for 2 weeks. And he was like, I need someone to cover my pipeline. And, one of the hardest things as an originator often is going out of the country or going on vacation. So I covered him, and he came back and was like, wow, that was incredible. That was the first time I got to go and leave the office on vacation and not worry and not pick up the phone. Is there something I can do for you? And I was like, well, yes, I'm actually going to go out and have surgery and I'm going to be out. So he covered for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, how exciting, this whole team concept. And so that's where it all began. It was just having coverage and being able to turn it off. And it was like such a blown concept, So yeah, that's where it started in 09. It's just getting to work on a team, build something, and have coverage and get to turn it off.
So at some point, as you're doing that, I'm sure volume is growing because we all know where we were in 2009, 10, 11, 12. Those were stair step years. Those are years where every year the market gave us a little more opportunity and we could grow a little bit. What was the vision that you had at that time? Were you thinking, I've already just, this is as good as it's going to get. This is amazing. Or did you see something bigger?
At that time, what we saw was we were going to get bigger because our other teammate was really into search engine optimization. And back then in 2010, 2011, that was very new, kind of a new technology. And she was really on the forefront of that. And it just, I mean, we couldn't stop it if we wanted to. It was just full on and it was exciting and it was very fast paced. And we just kept adding more team members and growing in space. It was super, super exciting for me to be a part of that. I would never take back those years. It was incredibly exciting. But I began to feel a little unfulfilled, a little disconnected, if you will, because we started to get so big that it felt out of touch with the consumer because I started to manage the other producers and the other ops. So I wanted to get back to the basics and get back to the one-to-one. That was kind of where we had transitioned into Big Life.
So what I'm hearing from that is, and what I want people to notice is that with you, connection was so important, is connecting with the client. And another thing we talked about a little bit just to set up our call today was your tagline and kind of almost your mission. So can you talk to us a little bit about both of those things?
Yeah, so Big Life Home Loan Group, that's our name, that's my team name. It's basically, I never wanted to see like my name on a billboard. I don't need, Amy Oehler team. I don't need that. I want to grow something bigger than that. I think real estate is a big deal. So I want to grow something big. And so we think big, we live big, we love big, and we give big. And that's just not for our clients, that's for our referral partners and our teammates. And so it's just thinking outside the box in both the workspace and in the lending space. It's asking the questions. It's having life-work balance if we can. Sometimes it's impossible, but it is team coverage. It is acknowledging our teammates' strengths and weaknesses. It's doing what you do best. And in our industry, I feel like there's so many people that are shoved in different positions and they may not be best at all of what is required of that position. So like for me, I'm not best suited to review income and asset docs. I'm not best suited a lot of times to deliver the mortgage coach presentation. I have teammates that excel at that, whereas they don't feel comfortable speaking to referral partners or condo developers or coming up with forward commitments with builders. That is where I thrive and love. So Big Life for me was just getting out of the norm of what we think a producer is and building something bigger.
Okay, so immediately that mission, as Catherine said, and the way you highlighted it in those four areas, gives me curiosity. I want to explore all of that. So you gave us a preview right there. So are there some areas of thinking bigger that you look back on now 5 years ago and say, yeah, we weren't thinking big enough back then like we are today? Are there some areas that you could highlight for our audience who might also not be thinking big enough, and you can help them see how you created the bridge?
Yeah, so at first, thinking big for me was just the pre-app interview. Instead of pushing people to application and spitting them out a pre-qual and thinking I needed to be rocket fast, I thought thinking big was slowing down having a pre-app conversation, getting very curious, and almost in a way getting permission to get their social security number. I mean, I feel like we have such a unique opportunity to learn so much about our clients, but I don't feel like if I don't speak to you first or get some sort of connection, I don't feel like I've got that permission. So at first, thinking big was just slowing down, having the conversation and being curious. And now it has grown into, okay, I want to evolve in growing my teammates. So it went from getting paid, let's just say, large amount of basis points to saying, no, thinking bigger now is preventing burnout. Thinking big for me now means taking less basis points, growing the team, and preventing burnout, but also doing what I love instead of doing the things that I procrastinate doing, and acknowledging what my weaknesses are and filling the gap. And then from a production level or products level, it's thinking beyond the onesie twosie realtor referral. It's doing the hard. It is focusing on condo conversion, warrantable, non-warrantable, apartment conversions, manufactured housing space, one-time close, construction, reverse. It's doing the hard, doing the onesie twosie easy, but making the hard look easy.
Okay, so now that makes me curious about a couple other things. You touched on where some of your business might be flowing from, but it sounds very diverse. It sounds like you probably have a very diverse network. As you look at where you've been able to help your team think bigger as they grow, where are some of the areas that you've chosen to focus on in terms of lead generation? I mean, it sounds like realtors are in the mix, but maybe not the only source of business that you have. It sounds like you're doing some client management, whether that's through, long-term review of their long-term plans or other strategies. But tell us a little bit about how you've diversified in order to think bigger about where your business comes from.
Yeah, so when I was able to step back and do the things that I love doing, which, if I look back on a day and say, man, what made that day really successful? It was always connection. It wasn't the contracts or the closings. That's great too, right? That's how we survive and thrive. But it was all about connectivity. And so being able to step back and doing the things I love and growing the team that supported me allowed me to be more forward facing with condo developers or talking with builders about, maybe not being a preferred lender, but maybe being that second lender. So it got me to be more client facing, referral partner facing, developer facing. And then it also gave me time to read up on articles and what's going on in Austin, Texas, what's going on in Texas, where are their problems, whether it be affordability, whether it be, manufactured housing is going to solve a lot of problems. I'm from Pasadena, Texas. I grew up in a single wide trailer. That is very important to me. So manufactured one-time close is hard. And I am in the process of building a team so that we can fill that gap because it's needed. So just slowing down and taking time to listen to what our clients needs, but also listen to what is our public, what is Austin, what is Texas needing, and just being able to be there and learn those programs. I think it's important.
So a couple things I just want to make sure that our listeners heard is focusing in on the stuff that gives Amy energy, right? So focusing in on those things and saying, hey, the important pieces are connection and doing the fun stuff and really diving into my passions, even if it's not necessarily the most profitable thing in the world. But at the same time, if I'm able to have the energy for it, I'm not going to get burned out. So I think that's just really important for everybody to make sure that they took away from that, because then you do have time to add in the things that you really love, which is how we can feel your energy. If you guys can't hear it, watch the YouTube version because you could definitely see it. And you can't keep that type of energy if you're not doing the pieces and parts that you really, really love. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. So then what do you kind of talk to me about going forward from here? Because now you have all this different possibility. You've talked a little bit about the projects, but what do you see for yourself or for your team moving forward?
Yeah, so I think we're in a little bit of a transition period in the mortgage industry. Okay. And I think we've got to be really honest with ourselves. And I think if we want to survive, the next 5, 10 years, whatever longevity you see yourself, we got to be honest. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? I want to add teammates in 2025 and 26 that complement my strengths and that I complement them. And together we work in this space. So, for instance, I see that if originators are having difficulty with lead generation, maybe their realtor referral partners are getting out of the business, or now they're doing this part-time. I want to be able to create these opportunities through condo projects, being the preferred lender on some projects, going to getting deals from Clayton and Palm Harbor, teaching them one-time close, teaching them reverse, and giving them that business and helping them. Now, I would expect that they would have their own retail business, but helping them expand upon the business that they've already had. And so that's my big life vision. And it's not their volume rolling up under my volume. It is us working collectively to grow Big Life in a big way. And we can start small, if you will, in Texas, but we lend in 45 states. So why not go bigger? So
I've never heard anyone refer to Texas as small, Amy. That seems like a great place to start. Start small and think big. I like it. So one of the things I know about you as I follow your story online is you are really creative in the way in which you position your brand on social media. And, I know you're not here to toot your own horn, but it seems like some of our industry stalwarts came around and decided you're one of the 20 most influential people in real estate on social media. Did you know that? Did you know that you're such a big deal on social media?
Well, I think the proper title was the top 50 most followed, and I'm number 29. And though I had no idea, my one of my colleagues reached out and said, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea my friend is a celebrity," and I thought that was kind of silly. But now I'm like, this is really cool. That list is awesome. Now I'm following all of them, and we've really been supporting one another, and that is so awesome because Cornerstone says we are one, all of us being one, but now I really do feel it in the whole mortgage space. We can certainly learn from each other. It's like we're getting smaller. And so, yeah, I was honored and quite flattered for that. I had no idea. I did know that my transparency did attract a lot of people. I did get a lot of people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, can you tell me about that? I saw that you left something really big to start over. Can you tell me how you worked through that fear? What did you do?" And I can just say, God, I prayed a lot. And yeah, so it's been fun to have the title and the recognition on LinkedIn. But what I really love is the connectivity, because I've spoken to a lot of people in the business that are struggling, and it's been a good opportunity.
So, Catherine, several of those people that are also on that list, and I'm sorry, Amy, I put you in the top 20. Sounds like you're in the top 30. I'll
Sure.
stand corrected. But a lot of the people on that list, I had a chance to meet for the first time at the Housing Wire Summit back in April when I was in Phoenix, actually right down the street, Amy, from where we all met with Think and Grow a couple of years ago. And when we were at that event, what I felt was exactly what Amy said. It was this strange sense that now is the time where instead of it being brokers versus retail or bank, it was more like we need to come together as an industry and get serious about the future of the housing industry. So I've even tried to catch myself from saying things like the mortgage industry and really talking about we're all part of the housing industry and we all play a key role in the bigger picture. So, Amy, thank you for sharing that perspective. And who knows, maybe we'll get you to Colorado next year for the Housing Wire Summit in Colorado Springs. That would be a fun place to introduce you to some of those folks that share the list with you. Catherine
I
and I
was
are
at
planning to be.
Blackberry Habib, which freaked me out. I'm like, look at me, I'm a Blackberry. I digress.
All good. Amy, I referenced that Think and Grow event. My memory when we all gathered out in Paradise Valley, Arizona, about a year and a half ago, was that you had an adventure, maybe an adventure we facilitated, but one that you experienced. And my hunch is that it was a big part of your story, but our audience doesn't know that story. Would you be willing to tell us a little bit about our Camelback Mountain hike back in the spring of 2023?
Well, first of all, it was not planned at all. We have these beautiful Think and Grows, and yes, Building Champions comes in and does an amazing job of motivating us and challenging us to think bigger. And we always meet up in the mornings to do our walks. And it was told to us that we were going to have an adventure. And I didn't know what an adventure was. This was May of 2023. I was not in a good spot in terms of health. We were having some transitions here at Cornerstone. There were some adjustments, and I was just my foundation wasn't real firm. But when Daniel Harkavy and Michael Regan said that we're going to have an adventure, well, I'm not going to miss out. So I thought, all right, let's go. But I didn't know what adventure we were headed out to. And lo and behold, I didn't even see the Black Diamond signs until we got down from the mountain. But we start heading out on this adventure and we're walking. I have no idea what Camelback Mountain even is at all. But I can tell you I had one little water bottle and that is it. And I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure that we had a few cocktails the night before. So I wasn't necessarily hydrated or prepared. And I hadn't been running in a while. So my shoes were real slick. I hadn't purchased the appropriate running shoes. I remember wearing these running shoes that had no grip. And so here we go up Camelback Mountain. There started out, maybe 20, 25 of us, but people kept kind of falling off. They were getting up, going, all right, you guys, I'll see you later.
No, nobody fell off the mountain, Amy.
Didn't like fall off, but like going, I'm not gonna, you keep going, guys. I'm gonna turn back now. And I saw everybody that was hanging in there were probably more physically fit. Actually, I know they all were more physically fit than I. And so I saw Michael and a couple others and Daniel kind of getting a little nervous and saying, hey, Amy, it's okay if you want to turn around. And I'm like, oh no, let me introduce myself. I'm Amy Oehler and I don't quit. And so we kept going and going and going. And then Daniel was like, Amy, we got to turn around. I've got to lead the next session. And I said, Daniel, you're going to be late. And we did. We finished and it was such a moment. It was unbelievable. But I can tell you, there are bees up there at the very top. So we got attacked by bees. And then I thought that it was easy to go down. It is just as hard to go down. It took just as long. And I showed up late to this event. So did Daniel. I was beet red. I could not keep my makeup on. But yeah, it really changed my life. I say I got Harkavy that day. I weighed 195 pounds. I was drinking way too much alcohol. And since then, I've lost 65 pounds. Alcohol does not have the grip on me that it had before, and I am changed. The ripple effect of that event has been incredible. And I'll
And
just
that's
Catherine,
why there's a walk. I love it. I mean, that's like, and I think sometimes just saying, no, I'm gonna make it to the top is what we all need to do in both our hikes and our life, right? Of like, no, I'm so close. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna be the person who falls off the mountain. So
myself for doing something that not only no one else around you thought I could do. Because I looked, my face was super red. Everybody was concerned about, like, I'm just going to have a heart attack. I know. And I was praying because I was thinking I was going to as well. But not only doing something that the people around you aren't sure that you should be doing, but also proving to yourself that, hey, I can do hard things.
yeah, Amy, that's my memory as well as when we got back into that room and, there were what, 70, 80 of us in that room. I mean, it wasn't a small room, it was a large room. I felt like the glow that you brought into that room from accomplishing that it set the tone for the whole day that we had. It was like you became a representation of what we were trying to accomplish with 80 people. And suddenly they could look at you and say, it's possible. This gal just kicked ass on that mountain and look at her now. So I'm so thankful that you took that chance and the fact that you had that fire in your belly to say, no, I'll let you know when I'm turning back. I'm not here to quit. There's a real lesson in that. And Catherine and I understand that lesson from our personal stories. I hope our audience hears that too, because all of you right now listening are experiencing something in your life. I mean, what Amy said about our housing industry is really true of our economy as a whole. So even if you're just operating a small business today and you're tuning in because someone shared this episode with you and said, hey, this is a topic you're going to be interested in. I hope what you hear loud and clear is this really isn't a mortgage or a housing industry inspiration. It's a reminder that all of us have a bigger dream in us and something is possible that we're not committed to pushing ourselves through to achieve. And Amy's story is evidence that when you have that focus and you have that fire and then you actually experience what it's like to come around on the other side, I mean, Amy, that lifted your whole life. You're talking about it, and it's clear to me, like everything about you leveled up from that moment. And I'm inspired. It really is great to hear that story.
Well, it still gives me goosebumps, and actually, I was getting a little teary-eyed because I have had people that I've seen who were at that event. I saw Lisa Cortez just
Yeah.
last week, and she's like, Amy, I remember that. And she is like, you're such a badass. Like, my level of respect for you is just like, and that's awesome. But I think that that's why this whole you are one and the mortgage industry looking at each other and
Mm.
supporting one another. It's like, look at what he's doing, look at what she's doing, what a badass. Or again, like you mentioned, Michael, total different industries. It doesn't matter. It's people thriving and surviving and pivoting and changing and saying, you know what, this is tough. This economy is tough. But that doesn't mean that we're going to quit. We're going to continue to learn. We're going to continue to grow and stretch ourselves. And we become so proud of ourselves in those moments that, yeah, it's infectious, right? So don't quit. Be late, but don't quit.
That's a great take. Catherine, as we bring this thing into the home stretch, any closing thoughts or questions for our friend Amy?
Amy, thanks so much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you and to feel that energy. And I love what you're saying about the mortgage industry and how we're working together at the event we were at last week, Building Champions event. I could feel that from everyone there. And sometimes it gets kind of weirdly competitive. And I did not feel that at all at that event, which was so great. And so what you're saying is just reiterating that. And it makes me feel so positive about our industry and moving forward. And just it's hopefully it's inspirational for everybody that listens to this episode. So thank you for sharing and thank you for being transparent and for being such a mover in our industry. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you
let's
for
carry
having
that
me.
forward, Catherine.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Amy, when I think about your story, I'm not just excited for people to listen to this episode. I'm excited for people to get to meet you in person and see that this is not, something we did because the light was on and it was time to hit record. This is how you live, and so I hope they'll follow you. Give them a social handle. I know you said LinkedIn. Is that where you'd like them to check out what you're doing, or what is your favorite place to find you online?
I think LinkedIn is perfect. You got to help me get to that top 10 spot. So please follow me on LinkedIn. And there wasn't enough female on that list. There was only like 3 or 4 of us. So follow me on LinkedIn, and yeah, follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I'm public on all platforms.
Catherine, I don't know about you. What I just heard was, "Come on, Catherine, let's go.
I know,
Get
I
into the
heard
top
that
20
too.
with me."
I got the message. I got the message.
All good. Folks, this is going to wrap another episode of Building Bigger Lives. And I just want to thank both my co-host and our guests today for contributing in such a massive way. All we desire to do with these episodes is bring in inspirational and transformational stories to those of you who are out in the housing industry or beyond. And as you share this episode with your friends and coworkers, remind them that that's going to continue to be our mission. We're going to continue to find great guests like Amy who we can highlight. And our only goal is to inspire you to reach a little higher and do a little more, because we need you. The industry needs you. And look, Amy, you nailed it. We're all in this together. So let's make it better. That'll be a wrap on today's episode. We'll hope you'll find us again on Apple or Spotify if that's where you're tuned in. YouTube, as Catherine mentioned, if you prefer to watch us on video. And again, we'll see you on next week's episode of Building Bigger Lives.